A landmark decision. That's what one member of the Diocese of Brooklyn's legal team is calling it. The Supreme Court decided to side with the diocese in its fight with the state of New York, but the battle is far from over. Currents News' Emily Druby reports on what's next and how this could affect other states.
It's significant, I think even a landmark decision.
That's attorney Akiva Shapiro, part of the Diocese of Brooklyn's legal team. He says the Supreme Court injunction could have far-reaching effects, not just for New York, but for religious institutions around the country.
They were not treating us equally as others. We became non-essential, and so that became the problem.
The ruling specifically pertaining to restrictions in red and orange COVID hotspot zones where houses of worship were capped at 10 or 25 people. They say more could safely fit inside.
We did try to negotiate with the state before we did this. We asked them, look, take into account the size of our buildings. Then we limited on that basis, but they refused even to negotiate or even talk about that. So that we had no choice.
Now the lawsuit goes back to the appeals court. A hearing is scheduled for December 18th. Governor Cuomo claiming the ruling is irrelevant because the diocese no longer has churches in the red or orange zones.
The zone that they were talking about has already been moot. It expired last week. So I think this was really just an opportunity for the court to express its philosophy and politics.
But Bishop DiMarzio argues that could change at any time, and this protects them.
Because although, as the governor said, it was mute because they changed the zones, but they could put the zones in tomorrow.
It was a 5-4 decision with Justice Amy Coney Barrett in the majority.
Up until this moment, the Supreme Court, and therefore the lower courts, had been entirely deferential to state and local governments, no matter how severe the restrictions were on religious liberties.
Akiva adds now the Supreme Court is saying the Constitution must be considered when states put restrictions into place.
If there are other states out there that are doing the same thing, that are imposing stricter requirements and restrictions on houses of worship, those restrictions are now subject to challenge under this ruling.
Since the pandemic began, religious institutions in states across the country have brought up lawsuits pertaining to COVID restrictions. In California, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of the Archdiocese of San Francisco has already voiced strong concern against new restrictions in their state that ban indoor worship services, mentioning this New York ruling. While in New Jersey, the Supreme Court has intervened in a similar situation, demanding the state respond to a lawsuit brought on by a synagogue and a church. Emily Druby, Currents News.
The Diocese of Brooklyn has been taking every safety precaution since churches reopened to make sure worshipers stay safe. When parishes opened their doors, only 25% were allowed inside, and those who returned were under strict social distancing. Everyone must also wear a face mask. The liturgy also changed because of COVID. No entrance procession for any mass. Music must be limited to the organist and cantor the cantor cannot sing at the same place where the lector reads. All reading material, such as missals or worship aids, were removed from the pews. The handshake during the sign of peace, strictly forbidden. And the Diocese of Brooklyn, after no longer offering the precious blood, strongly recommended that parishioners receive communion by hand only. If you're watching Currents News on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to get updates to all of our newest content, because we are putting your faith in the news.